What's up? Don't mind my girlfriend in the background, but it's fine.
Uh,
Let
she
me.
can she can hang with the boys. That's all good with me.
All right, let me change my stream real fast. You're back to the stream.
Dude, every time I check out your stream, you always have the best hats, man. I will say, always have the best hats. I'm not a hat guy, but I can appreciate a good hat guy.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I get that from Dr. Mick. Us in our backwards hat.
Yeah, he does that. I see him with that that slickness. But he hasn't. Well, he does have like a partial mullet, just kind of growing on the back. Even though he doesn't have a mullet, he still has that dude going on. So,
Yeah.
but it's just clean.
Um. All right. You know what, guys? I don't know. Let me see if anybody's in my stream. If not, I'm just gonna host you, and this will be easier because my camera's messed up on my
Yeah,
stream
man.
now. So give
Yeah,
me a second.
and listen, I'm tired as fuck, so I might just hop off after this and send everybody your way, anyways. If you
All
if
right,
you
sounds
decide to
good.
come back on,
Yeah, I'll hop back on. Let me just host you real quick.
I bet.
Then I'll just log off here.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So how as you're doing that,
There we go. There we go. Okay.
hey, welcome, monster. Welcome on in,
Well,
sir.
thank you. Thank you. The one and only.
When I
All right.
started, when I got that alert up, it was on full blast, and I didn't know how loud it was. So when people started to come in when I was playing Squadrons, my eardrums were fucked. It was, it was not a good
Okay.
time, my friend.
All right, buddy. I'm good to go now.
You
Sorry
good
for
to
the
go?
technical difficulties as usual. If
They,
anybody's known to watch my stream, I have constant, constant technical difficulties.
I feel like that's like every stream I see has some sort of technical difficulties. Like on average, I might have 4 or 5 technical difficulties going on. I had a
Yeah.
stream where literally the stream cut out like maybe 3 or 4 times, and I was so determined because it was a 12-hour stream. I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna get back
Yeah.
on. Nothing's gonna happen."
Have you done a 24-hour stream before?
I was thinking about doing it for the last day of May. I was
Okay.
thinking about pumping through, bro. But 12 hours, my eyes
It's
are.
hard.
It's fucking hard, dude. One of my buddies, Dazzy Devastator, plays Battlefront. Like he dresses up in scout armor. And
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
dude, he's a serious, legit dude, and
He's in it to win it.
he did it for 30 hours. I
Oh
think it
my
was a
God.
couple days ago for mental health awareness. I was like, why did you tell me you were doing this shit? And he was dressing up in like Padme stuff, like looking like
Oh
Han out
wow.
here, bro. Yeah, looking snoozy. But enough about him. How are you doing, bud? How was your day going, bud?
It was good. It wasn't work was all right. It's just a normal day. Our hospital, I guess my units have been pretty busy lately, so
Mm,
we had about actually like pretty much all of our beds were full. So I managed like 40 patients for my units, just
mm.
kind of a lot, but
Yeah, that
luckily I
is.
have some help managing all of them, so
Right, and
we're as go.
we're definitely gonna get into like your team, the consultations behind it. Like the residencies you've done,
Okay.
and all the training behind that. And again, what we do here for these interviews is we talk mostly about how you became a streamer and what really drove you to going on this journey, and how you got here, and what your plans are for the future. So I really appreciate you coming on board, and it's always a pleasure to have somebody else that also advocates for mental health, because if you think about Twitch, there might be, off the back of my head, I can think about 6 out of like the millions of people that stream. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a kind of a growing community, and I can definitely uh, like thank Mick for that. Like I think he's definitely one of like the leaders, I feel like, in the mental health community. And I think he's just doing great things. I'm just glad to have met him many, many moons ago playing Destiny 1. So
I was seeing
but
screenshots with you and him like doing poses and stuff, and him just like
yeah.
just loving it. I just met the guy like what, like a month ago, and he
Yeah.
I was like, yo, who else? I wasn't like trying to say. I came into the stream. I was like, oh, who else
Hmm.
advocates for mental health? You know, I want to see what
Hmm.
the group is like and all that. And he was like, oh, well, there's Monster. There's that guy. I was like, oh, who's Monster? They linked it and I came on board. I was like, yo,
That's
this dude
awesome,
looks
dude.
chill as shit.
I'm
he's
gonna try to
a
be.
he's a psych pharmacist? What? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely a very interesting job. People usually have a lot of questions because they think, you think pharmacist, you think of the traditional like Walgreens or CVS, just putting pills in a little bottle and on its way. But it's like, yeah, I don't do any of that. So you can
You
see
don't
some
wear a
very
white
interesting
coat.
stuff.
You don't wear a white coat.
I do sometimes, but
Sometimes?
it
Oh,
just kind of
no.
depends.
I wish I could
I
wear a
do have
white
a
coat.
white coat. Yeah. So.
Well, that's awesome, man. And again, like I am so curious behind, when I think about um, the counseling side of things, I think about, you know, you have the prescriptions that your psychiatrist prescribes to you. You either go to see your
Hmm.
psychiatrist or you go see a psychologist or
Hmm.
even just a regular counselor. You might get your diagnosis and then you go from there, right? But this is a whole different type of sector. You work mostly with inpatient, right?
Yeah, yeah. So during residency, I worked inpatient and outpatient, like various rotations, that type of thing. But my current job now is purely inpatient. We are kind of looking to kind of add some more outpatient services. I think that's a role that psychiatric pharmacists can help fill. As far as, there's like a limited amount of psychiatrists. It's kind of hard for hospitals to get psychiatrists to come in, and obviously they're busy in themselves managing all the patients that they do. So
Mm-hmm.
I think psych pharmacists can kind of help bridge that gap and kind of increase access for patients,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as just kind of help take loads off of the psychiatrist and managing more of like the mild to moderate patients who kind of just need kind of med management
Mm-hmm.
type of situation. So
Mm-hmm. And when we think about like the teams that you work with, it's kind of like scientists work in pairs, right? You never have one, you know, co- you never have a consultation meeting with one person and say, okay, that's the right move. That person is doing everything on his own. No, you guys have a team working together to kind of creating these treatment plans, creating what you need for this client to get better, and that's what matters. Is that kind of what inpatient is like, kind of all about, and what
yeah, yeah, I can give like a quick brief on like what my, I guess, daily responsibilities look like. So
mm-hmm.
usually get in we have two different shift schedules, but my they're essentially the same. In the mornings I work up my patients that I'm going to be rounding with on that unit. So it's usually about anywhere between like 10 and 20 patients depending on the floors.
Mm-hmm.
And at my hospital we have six actually different psych units. I actually work at a predominantly, psychiatric hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so we have an acute serious mental illness unit. We have a mood disorder clinic. We have like a general adult patient psych unit.
Mm-hmm.
We have a geriatric unit and a alcohol and drug rehab clinic. So
Mm-hmm.
I manage one SMI unit, one mood disorder unit, and then I manage the addictions, I guess, clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So I essentially work with my patients in the morning, and then I will hop on a call with our like psychiatrists, our nursing staff, social workers, rec therapists are on there as well, and like any medical students, pharmacy students, residents there, and we kind of go over the patients, kind of what happened overnight, kind of any pertinent events and what's been going on in their care. And then after that, I will actually meet up with the psychiatrist, and we will round together and see all the patients, kind of like one on one, and kind of go through what's been going on, talk about medication changes, and then that's usually when I kind of make recommendations to the team. From there, as far as what I would do, as far as like just give feedback to if they're like, hey, let's put them on Celexa or something, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good option for like XYZ. Kind of just like, and then I also like counsel the patients like on the medications. So that's pretty much my morning because that usually lasts to like 11 or noon, depending on how fast or slow the psychiatrist is working that day. And then we got lunch, obviously the most important part of the day,
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
in the afternoon, I teach patient education groups
Mm-hmm.
Mondays and Fridays for the various units. We usually talk about antidepressants, but we also talk about like insomnia, and like how to manage that through medications as well as like CBTI. So something I'm sure you're familiar with.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
and then other days I'm actually giving lectures to the medical students and residents that kind of rotate through our hospital. So usually they're the main topics like antidepressants, antipsychotics, and mood stabilizers.
Hmm.
And then any other time is kind of admin time to work on, projects or whatever it may be, uh,
Hmm.
trainings and stuff. So,
So it feels like you've heard it all, from questions since you are
mm,
more into that education sector. You
mhm.
know, there's no weird or wrong question. It's really all pertaining to their own health, and they come to you for that consultation, and they really that knowledge really helps them improve themselves, from day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only with the patients, but also with like the team. My office is right across from the medical residence office, so
Mm.
um, we're actually all like really close, and I'm able to, like bullshit with them and just kind of like have fun and stuff. And I'll go in there like if they like make an error, something like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, just like playfully type of thing. But like I don't know, we have really good relationships with the psychiatrists as well as the medical residents. So.
Mm.
Um, it's something like when I first got onto the job, it's very important for me to build those relationships. And I don't feel like I have to fight for a seat at the table. I know some clinical pharmacists have a hard time, working with physicians and whether that may be like cultural differences or just like different generations of practicing medicine. Um, I unfortunately don't have to have that because the physicians and providers at my hospital really value pharmacy, and I definitely want to keep that relationship up. Um,
Mm-hmm. So would you say, just a question off the top of my head, the age group within the staff around you is kind of within range of your kind of age group? Is
Yeah,
that kind of
so yeah. So I'm 30 years old, turned 30 this year, so it's downhill from here.
oh yeah,
But
you still got like
uh
10 good years left.
yeah, 10 years. Yeah, that's about right. So but yeah, like all the medical residents are very close to my age. I would say plus or minus like 2 years. And actually the psychiatrists and providers, I would say are all pretty fairly young. I would say the majority of them are less than 50. So it's a fairly young
Oh
generation, and that
yeah.
is something I definitely have noticed that as far as like from a pharmacy medicine perspective, the younger generation tends to really collaborate a little bit more, I guess, and value pharmacy's opinion a lot more than I would say,
Hmm.
but sometimes with the older physicians.
Yeah, I feel like I tend to see. Well, nowadays I've seen a lot younger pharmacists just in general. If we're talking about pharmacology, I have no idea, right? Like you have a better idea than I would ever have of what that population looks like is in all aspects, right? And
Hmm.
and when I think about um, what a pharmacist does, it's really listening to what this person's telling you to do, and then that's what you do. But that's not necessarily what the case is here. It's really you guys working as a team together to kind of create the best treatment possible. I like how you
Exactly.
I like how you call it consultation meetings rather than you know just making an appointment, right? It's
Yeah,
just a different framework when you just really consider it. You know.
yeah, I think you'll get that a little bit more from the like an outpatient standpoint where they'll call it like a patient appointment type of thing, whereas
Yeah.
on an inpatient unit, we're just all part of the interdisciplinary team, and that's just our job.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So,
And you know what? I really want to know, like, the biggest thing I want to know is about your story into getting into what you do now. Um,
sure.
and I should have told you this at the start. If there's any questions that you don't want to answer, you are more than welcome to say pass. We will always say pass. We will always move on. I swear, like I do this every time with an interviewee because you know what, it's there, right? Also, if you guys are watching this, if you are seeing somebody and somebody who is like say a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor, this is all for psychoeducation purposes. All right. This is all just information. I'm learning things on the go as well. I'm taking it with a grain of salt. You know me, I write down a shit ton of notes, but I make sure that like this is being documented so that I can like go over and I can like do my own research. But also, if there's somebody that you have that's a part of your life and getting better and growing every day, listen to them. Listen to everybody that you have and that support network that you have because every person has a perspective, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just say absolutely because that was something that you had mentioned about the question or like whatever the disclaimer how it always and you're supposed to do it at the beginning but then it always gets like left behind. I was like, yeah, I feel like I'm the same way. I'm like, whoa, by the way, guys, so this is
I'm so
please talk to your
used
providers.
Dude, I'm so used to interviewing like people on stream that are just like still working through their their mental health and still
Hmm.
improving on themselves and they might be big like Rocket League gamers or Overwatch gamers or whatever and then they're like, "Oh, mental health? Oh, I haven't really thought about it until you asked me."
Right.
In this interview. I was like, "Oh, well, okay, well, here we go." But for you, it's like, okay, well, we can move past this. We can look for the more advanced
Sure.
curriculum going on here. Get to the nitty gritty, baby. Um, but as one scientist to another, I have to ask you the demographics. You ready for this?
Sure, buddy.
All right, Betty. Let's get to it. Gaming platform. What's your gaming
Uh,
platform, buddy?
PC now, I
PC
guess.
now. You used to play
Yeah.
something else?
Yeah, it was. I guess I kind of. I mean, I started on. I would say probably Xbox, like OG Xbox, the huge controllers. But then I like switched to like I played WoW growing up, so I had a PC as well. Uh, yeah,
And I'm guessing streaming platform is Twitch.
yeah, Twitch. Yep.
Mhm. And over your lifetime, how many years have you been gaming? Like since day one, baby.
Like, are we talking just like playing video games or like really playing video games?
No. Like it's like ever since you picked up a controller and they were like, "Yo, try this out." What happened?
Man, I almost feel like probably like 8 years old, 6 or 8 years old. I was pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
Like. I played like Sega Genesis was probably the first console I had. It's been a while.
OG man, you're an OG
Yeah,
man. What about
yeah.
So you probably played all the Super Nintendo stuff. What's the other one?
Yeah, I pretty much had every console
Yeah.
except for I didn't have Dreamcast and I don't think I had a GameCube, but pretty much everything else I had.
You didn't have a
So
GameCube. What'd you play Melee on?
I went to just friend's house to
Uh,
play.
you got a guy. It's okay. We all
Yeah,
had
I
that.
had a guy.
And what about time stream lifespan?
Oh, God popped. Well, I kind of did this like green for like I feel like 2 years and then I like stopped and then I recently like, came back. So maybe 3 years total. You wanna
Okay, let's do
yeah.
3 years. I'm good with that. So you've been around the block for a minute, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah. It definitely took a hiatus though for definitely probably between those I guess times probably 2 or 3 years. I was like doing pharmacy stuff, pharmacy school, residency.
Yeah, and we're definitely gonna get into that time consuming like aspect
Hmm.
of what you do
Oops.
because 40 patients is a lot, people. Like I'm
Yeah.
like counselors are only supposed to meet up or manage over like I would say up to 25 because that's a lot of treatment plans that you have to create for him
Yeah.
as as a psych pharmacist. That's a whole different type of expertise, but at the same time that's a lot of people you have to
Yeah.
know what specific medication goes with what person and all their medical history behind that. God damn, bless your heart, bro.
Hey, fortunately I don't have to write as probably as many notes as you. So
Honestly, I'm just used to it at this point. Like I actually like I used to hate my handwriting and then I started to realize, dude, I write my Y's really nice. Like,
whoa, you don't use you don't type them up?
well, I mean, if I'm like doing it like an interview, well,
Hmm.
no. No. If I'm meeting with clients, I'm writing and I'm talking. But
All
usually,
right.
if I'm like with a client, it'll be like bulletin points. I ain't gonna be like staring at my fucking shit and you're
Oh,
talking.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh, what'd you say? Wait,
yeah.
tell me. Go back. Last sentence. No, I'm not doing that shit to people.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even I talk therapists. Sometimes they wait till the end of the session to kind of fill everything out
Mm-hmm.
to just make sure that they have everything because they're more focused on facial expressions
Sure. I
and
mean, they
body
have to,
parameters.
yeah, they have to analyze the behaviors and stuff
Yeah.
for sure.
Analyze. So average daily stream time when you hop on from 1 hour to whatever.
I would probably say if I'm doing it during the week, I would probably say anywhere between 2 and 4 hours at most. If it's on the weekend, I usually go like 6 to 8.
6 to 8, goddamn. Go big or go home.
Yeah, weekdays are hard for me.
So I'm gonna put you so for weekly average time, I'll put you at like around 5 hours.
Good.
What about gaming? So like
Gaming is
yeah.
probably average of again, I mean during the week it's probably that 2 to 4 hours, and on the weekends it's yeah, probably it's probably the same for 6 to 8. Usually if
Mm,
I'm streaming, I'm gaming, or if I'm
okay.
gaming, I'm streaming.
You don't game outside of streaming. It's mostly just gaming.
I mean during the week, yeah, I will definitely. That's probably 2 to 4 hours daily.
I'll add on a couple hours there.
Put down whatever
So
you want.
I'll put down 40 hours a week.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
yeah.
What
I have
about
my setup at work. Yeah.
hell yeah, man. You don't got that Dell bullshit. You got
Mm.
that really good like digital storm stuff. I know what you got over there. What about how often do you use social media during the day? Average
Uh, I,
time.
I would probably just say like total probably 3 hours between like Instagram and Reddit.
3 hours. So 6. So before you streamed, how many social
Mhm.
media platforms did you use, like in total?
Um, Two, Facebook and Reddit.
Yeah. Reddit. Really?
Hell yeah. Oh, Reddit's huge, man. That's probably my number one social media.
I will say they have nice memes over there at Reddit.
But even I would say even Facebook, I don't really like utilize it that often. It's just kind of there more for like family stuff.
Oh, really? For family stuff?
Mm.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm.
I just started getting into Reddit, so I
Oh, it's a rabbit hole, my friend.
really
There anything you think of, it's on there. There's some sort of subreddit where people are like have a discussion forum or thread.
right and subreddits and all that stuff. I better
Hmm.
jump in that rabbit hole, man, because I know that a lot of people use that junk. What
Hmm.
about now that you have started streaming? Has that number increased of social media platforms?
I pretty much have only really added Instagram.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I would say I rarely use YouTube, and like I do have a Twitter, but I literally don't have anything on there. So
Yeah,
so it's there, but I don't know. I don't use it. I would say three total.
I'm bad at video editing, so just give me
Yeah,
some
same.
time. I will get it up there. That's not what I went to school for. I'm sorry, guys. Um, so guess what? You just passed all the easy shit,
Oh, perfect.
all the bullshit.
100%.
Hell yeah. So let's take us back to when you were 8 years old, 6 years old, and you were starting to play video games for the first time. And you're kind of going through school and trying to figure out what you were trying to be, what you wanted to do, the people you wanted to hang out with. That's always the best one. So, what really inspired you to play video games, or who inspired you to play video games?
Yeah, so I was like trying to like sort of prepare for these questions. Like,
Yeah, no,
uh,
you never
um,
prepared until you're here and you're in the
I
moment,
know,
baby.
not I'm in the hot seat now. So, but I was trying to think of it was like friends. Like, I think probably the two people would probably be like my cousin and then like
Mhm,
my dad. Because I felt like my parents were divorced growing up, and
mhm.
my dad, I guess, was kind of the fun parent because I only saw him, one day a week and then every other weekend. So we usually just, did the fun stuff. So, um, yeah, that's probably how I got my cousin and I would probably, like play Halo. I guess at that time it was like N64, so GoldenEye and
Hell
Donkey
yeah.
Kong, all that fun stuff. But yeah.
What about with your dad? What would you like to play with your dad?
We just played like a number of things. We played like Gauntlet Legends growing up. We played a lot of like sports, like hockey games. I don't think I ever beat him at football. It was really annoying. But um, what else? Yeah, Gauntlet Legends was probably the big one. Baldur's Gate, like 1 and 2. It was kind of more of those like action RPG type of games.
Hmm.
Oh.
Is that what kind of led to you just growing for this RPG love? All the...
Honestly, probably. Definitely like started young. Like also great. I mean, it's not gaming per se, but like I was like really big into like Pokemon and like Yu-Gi-Oh cards growing up. Like we would go
Mhm.
to I mean, I was pretty young, but we would go to like like local tournaments, like regional tournaments to play.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so kind of had like a love for card games and just gaming from a pretty young age. So
And like I'm like I don't know about the people here that are watching this today, but I'm unfamiliar with those type of tournaments. What's the atmosphere like, man?
usually it's just think of not like a gym, but think it's like usually like at a hobby store type of thing. Like I don't know, like Dragon's Lair was like one that was like we went to, but it's essentially like kind of in their back room, and they have like those big like you know lunch table type things like lined up and
Yeah.
down, like making like different aisles and stuff, and it's just essentially like you and me essentially would be sitting across the table, but think of like 40 or 50 people doing that down the road, and everybody's just playing their own matches, and then whatever you just like at the bracket depending on like if you won or lost.
It's
It's
like
pretty cool.
bingo for kids.
Yeah,
Yeah.
essentially. And then you have people like trading cards, and just kind of building like communities and stuff like that. So actually my dad actually Toys R Us used to have Pokemon tournaments
Yes,
at the
they
store we used to.
did.
So
Yes.
we would go there and play, and they would give out like free packs and stuff, and it was I don't know, it was fun. It was something we just did. Rip Toys R Us, by the way. Rip Toys R Us.
Toys R Us, Kids R Us, man. There's a place right next to my house called Pools and Toys, and it's like this just like ragtag toy shop. But they sold Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Pokemon cards, like whatever you wanted. I remember they had such specific hours they were open, but like every time I would go in there, I remember I was with my mom. I wouldn't ask for toys. I would ask for Pokemon cards, and like to.
Dude, Pokemon card's huge.
Did you ever have that big ass binder where you could just
Hell
put your
yeah.
collection in? Yes.
Yeah, I wish I would
Hell
have
yeah.
kept it.
Oh,
Wish I would have kept it, man.
dude, that's an archive, man. That's an instant classic archive.
Mm.
So, like, obviously, when you were growing up with, like, social media was like AOL, right? Like MySpace, AOL.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, growing up, I was there. I mean, I guess I started on dial-up internet, so that was always fun with parents being like, "Get off the Xbox, I gotta make a call." I'm like, but yeah, no, I guess AOL Instant Messenger. I guess we had MySpace growing up. Uh,
And,
yeah, those were the
yeah.
two big ones, and then it transitioned into Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
And like, I remember there was, like, the level up, right? You would go from MySpace to Facebook. Like, you would be
hmm
just. That's how you know you're growing up and shit. And, like, nowadays,
well,
like, what's up?
I was just say, well, yeah, like wow, back in the day, I mean, Facebook was just for colleges, right? So like, I
Mm-hmm.
think when Facebook first came out, like I was just still kind of in high school, so it was still kind of I guess the MySpace realm, and then once you got into college is when you kind of upgraded to Facebook. So social media kind of grew up with, I guess, our generation. Yes.
Now you,
So
now you see your 5-year-old cousins with Facebooks, and you're just like, this is not This is
Yeah, I
not
mean,
a
I didn't have a phone until I was 16.
yes.
So,
Right on, man. I understand that. I got mine when I was 15. Like my parents
yeah.
knew. But it would have been so cool to have that flip phone.
Yeah,
Just
dude, the katana was it? I had like a Sprint katana. I don't know.
you just felt like such a G. Like back in the day, you would be like, "Yo, I'm in the CIA" with that flip phone. Nowadays, you just hold up your Apple Watch. You're like, "Now I'm in the CIA."
Yeah, some Blackberries were cool.
Yeah, I don't know how my dad got into BlackBerry because like when you have massive fingers and you're just really just trying to go to town.
Hmm.
Sometimes you hit like four buttons at the same time. I don't get it. So like social media was just really like as the time came, like that's what you got into. Did your friends kind of encourage like, yeah, you should AOL me and like hit me
Um,
up and
yeah, I would say high school AOL was like pretty big, and I was, I guess you could say, on top of it then. Facebook again was kind of just like hit or miss. I actually didn't get on Instagram until like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So I was pretty like late to the Instagram party.
mm-hmm.
But it's never something that I've been like really focused on or have made a priority in my life. It's just kind of a way of communicating with people and staying in touch.
To be honest, I think you're better for it.
Yeah,
So
it's like still don't have a TikTok or anything. Not
oh,
definitely not getting that. So
we shit on TikTok, but everybody ends up on TikTok. So
we'll see. We'll see.
I'm holding out. I'm holding out so badly. So it was like social media wasn't really a big thing, and when you gamed, it was with people. Like
Hmm.
you gamed with your cousin or with your dad or maybe some friends. So you know what was the center of all that balance between like your schoolwork and like work in general or sports whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I probably, I mean, from I guess my mom's side and my grandparents, I gamed too much. So I would assume I probably had a priority over gaming growing up. But I mean, my grades, I would felt like didn't suffer. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a 4.0 student in high school and stuff. So, plus, I mean, I use gaming as like an escape, as many people do, with
Mm-hmm.
divorced parents type of thing. So, it was just kind of my way to escape to not deal with my personal life that was going on at the time. So, and obviously it has like a definitely a different meaning now than what it did back then. But yeah, I would definitely say gaming was a priority. And this and kind of still is a priority throughout my life. Obviously, I do my responsibilities that I need to get done first, but if I have free time, I definitely, you know, want to game. It's
I mean,
definitely a passionate hobby of mine.
4.0 student, that's pretty damn good. I can't say that for myself in high school. I sucked. Like good shit. Like so you was your parents kind of on your shoulders about, having your priorities straight or was it just kind of a personal thing?
I think I mean I definitely heard it a lot from my mom, for sure. But my dad, I mean, he didn't, like I said, he didn't. I mean, I think he cared. I mean, he wanted me to do well and succeed. But again, we just didn't really have whole lot of like time together, and it was something that we did to bond.
Mhm.
So, he enjoyed it, and also it was also a way for me to connect with my dad too when I wasn't at his house, right? Because like we would play WoW together. So, um,
Mhm.
it was just nice to be able to still have that connection with him, despite like not like having a limited amount of time in person with
Absolutely. I mean, you're living in the moment when you have
him.
those that time with them, and I think that's special. For any kid when you're with a parent, somebody that you're not usually with, that moment is just it's worth more than money, man. I'll
Hmm.
tell you what.
Absolutely.
So when you were growing up and you were kind of first dealing with like stress, what was that like? You said you used video games as like an escape.
Yeah. So I mean to be honest, like growing up, like I had your traditional like we weren't poor, like we weren't really struggling type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had a very good childhood, like no abuse, no trauma or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I mean I feel like the divorce definitely really hit me hard growing up. I kind of was, or at least I felt that I was kind of the middleman between my mom and my dad's relationship, and always, they'd be like, tell your mom this, tell your dad this, or I'm like, aren't you guys? I felt like I always had to be the adult type of thing when managing the communication between my parents, which was not always obviously the greatest, and no kid should have to really do that. So
Absolutely.
it definitely was like very stressful, and obviously with new, your parents like remarrying and like just having new relationships, kind of growing up, not you get to see a lot of. I felt like I never really saw like a great relationship on what a relationship should be. So like a good healthy relationship should be. And so yeah, I mean, I used just kind of gaming to kind of escape all of that. I could be whoever I wanted to be, like as far as like an online persona. No, I didn't need to be myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it was definitely very, like for me, it was a very stressful situation. I definitely felt, depressed and, things like that. I mean, at one point, I mean, growing up, I definitely was like thought about, taking my life, but obviously I'm still here today.
God
So it's
bless.
definitely a very difficult time just growing up and dealing with divorce and stuff. Definitely not easy.
And just because somebody has a good childhood overall, they have everything they need, doesn't mean they have everything they need. Like all the bigger
Right.
pieces doesn't mean that it's materialistic. It can be emotional as well. And
Hmm.
we have to consider that because, when we think about what we have, I don't think I'm thinking about, my desk and my computer and all that shit. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about the people that really mean something to me. And I think that's
Sure.
kind of like what Mr. Monster is passing on here to us here. I have a question. Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have one half brother from my mom's second marriage, I
Mm,
believe. Just his name is Just. So
Justin.
we have like let's see, he's like a 6, 7 year difference
Mm,
between us. So I would say like growing up, we kind of had, I feel like growing up, we weren't really that close because of that age difference. And obviously, I would assume the divorce and stuff like that, I'm sure played a role in that. But,
mm.
after I moved away from school and stuff, we've gotten a lot closer. And I think we've really strengthened our relationship.
That's awesome. When you moved, when you moved away, did you
Mhm.
find that this sense of independence kind of helped you develop as a person?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I moved from Nebraska to Alabama, which I never
Oh,
and
yeah, that's
and
different.
never in the world thought I was going to do. I mean, I literally didn't know anybody. I, I was going down there to do residency,
Mm,
and obviously, yeah, that was a very, very big change in my life. So,
mm,
I mean, definitely at times it was hard at the beginning. Again, not knowing anybody, I'm actually a pretty introverted person.
mm.
And so it was definitely difficult for me to kind of take that like step, out of my apartment and try to meet new people. Like fortunately I found like four really great friends that helped me get through that time. Actually at the VA that I was working at, they were actually psychologists, training to be psychologists. So it worked out, and for the most part I only really am in contact with one person from still Alabama because he lives close to me. But yeah, I mean, you move away, you kind of learn to, I guess, I would say, grow up even more and kind of figure out things on your own. And um, you definitely had to grow up fast.
Yeah, for sure. And that's crazy. You mentioned like having a connection with these people that you worked with. Like I feel like when you do something that you love, and I'm sure you kind of grew into this
Mhm.
passion of psychiatry and pharmacology, but you found people that had similar interests, and
Right.
they were actually some dudes, man. They were actually really good people, you know.
Hmm.
I think my question here is when you found out that you had people that were more in common with you, did that really help you kind of help cope with a lot of the issues that you were having and help kind of communicate the things that you were kind of going, like the thoughts that were racing and all this anxiety and stuff? It kind of helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because like going down there, like I was like single at the time too, so like I didn't really like have a relationship or anything. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, being able to meet those people with similar interests, and like I'm the type of person I would rather have a small close knit group of friends than have like that I know really well and can I can always count on and trust versus you know 100 friends type of thing. So like I found my like 4 people down there. I was like, yep, good to go, type of thing. So like, and it was something that we were like all seemed to be kind of like on the same page because they were doing their internship year down there and I was doing my residency. So we were kind of like in the same boat. We had the same hours. Like we would like my buddy Dan and I were able to work out together, and then like one of his buddies was down there too. So then we just like were like the trio, I guess, of boys that would just like hang out like on the weekends and just it's just I don't know, it's just like it just seemed to everything fell into place, I guess, down there. Um and it just worked out. It was obviously really nice because I if I hadn't had met them, I don't know what that year would have looked like.
What is that feeling of things coming into like fruition, like things coming into place? What does that like feel like?
I mean, I think for one, I think it was relief. Obviously, I think
Yeah.
like I think that year would have been much more difficult, obviously with the stress of residency, just working a lot of hours. Obviously coming out of pharmacy school, trying to figure out how to be like a new practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
and like where your role is in a career wise, what you want that to look like, what you want to do after residency. And then, but from like a personal, just being able to have those connections with people,
Mm-hmm.
again, with similar interests, people that I still talk to for the most part today, um, and yeah, being able to have those connections and just have people there that you can count on is definitely a huge relief. Because like again, I would expect if I had not met those people, I'm sure I would have met some people, and it would have been fine. But I felt like I may have fallen back into kind of that dark depression that I had in like high school and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, whereas I felt like out of high school, like in college and pharmacy school, I felt like turned my life around. But if I didn't have those people, I think I would have fallen right back in there.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that like falling back into that into depression or falling back
Mhm.
into those those repressed states, right?
Hmm.
But it seemed like you had a picture of what it looked like. Like it wasn't that like like you fell back into something and you didn't know what it looked like and it was kind of like confusing or nothing. It was more like
Hmm.
I know what that looks like. I'm doing the best I can to be better every day. Trying to find
Hmm.
people that really speak out to me, and I don't want to get to what this was. Right? Is it
Yeah.
sometimes easier to see our most difficult mental states when we've been through it?
Um, I think I think that's yeah, that's a very I think kind of a couple part questions because
Yeah.
I think the first thing to know for like anybody watching or anybody like that's going through similar things is that I feel like mental health or addiction, it's not something that's I feel like ever going to go away. There's gonna be times where it's easy, it's gonna be harder. But I think for the most part, it's gonna be something that you have to work at and have to be not necessarily a daily battle, but it potentially could be a daily battle. It's something that you have to go through every day. And as time goes on, we build better skills and coping skills, and surround ourselves with like a good support system to where it may not be as hard as it once was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, like, again, finding that support system down there, finding the people that I can call and talk to and stuff like that. Um, I kind of knew what I had to do to not get to that point anymore. Whether that was, yeah, definitely I would say the road there was hard.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like once you have those things and tools in place, I feel like it's not as hard. I don't want to say it's easy because I don't think any sort
No.
of I don't think it's necessarily ever really easy, but definitely made it more manageable for sure.
And
Uh,
when we think about like this mindset that like kind of Monster was giving us here is like he's talking about like when you see it, okay, it's something that's a part of us and we have to work through it. But you can get there. It's not to be optimistic, just to be positive, but rather
mhm.
be more centered on what we can do to get better. Like, how can we work on ourselves to get better and see, what that 1% looks like,
Hmm.
right? Because that could be difficult.
Yeah.
We can have days where, we don't want to get out of bed, or we're having a million thoughts in our mind that cloud our judgment, and cloud what our motivations are for that day or for the week or whatever it is. So it's great to focus on those specific things that really can allow us to move forward, even though we're always carrying something, but not allowing that to kind of dictate what our actions are, rather than keeping in a thought in our mind that this is a part of us and we have to acknowledge it, right? How many times have you
Hmm.
had a client, let me ask you this, that has asked a question about how do I how do I put a band-aid on something? Like, how do I get around this? When it comes to like personal conflict.
Yeah, I feel like for me, that question comes in the form of medications. So a lot of
Yeah.
times patients will view medications as a weakness, and I
Mm-hmm.
try to really challenge that point of view that they're having, or that perspective that they might be having, in the form of, I see mental illness as something very similar to how people, have high blood pressure or diabetes. And, sometimes, we can do like eat better, take less sodium, exercise. All that stuff is going to help improve, somebody's blood sugar or their blood pressure. But at the end of the day, we might still need medications to kind of help us get over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I view mental illness as the same way. I mean, a lot of, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, we don't really know exactly why they they come to fruition. We don't know why they come about or why people get it. I mean, we have some
Mm-hmm.
ideas, we have some theories, and most of the time it's usually a deficiency or overreactivity of various chemicals in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we need store bought serotonin or norepinephrine or dopamine, whatever it may be, to kind of get those levels, balanced out.
Mm-hmm.
And and so I just really try to challenge that stigma, because that's just something we hear all the time.
Oh yeah.
Or they'll stop taking their medications and then they kind of get back into the cycle. They start feeling better. I don't need medications.
Mm-hmm.
And then their mood, they don't associate with their better mood with the medication's helping, and then they
Mm-hmm.
stop taking them, and then they end up back in the hospital, or worse, like some sort of impulse, like maybe a suicide attempt or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then they're back in that same kind of cycle. We want to try to break that cycle, and so any way we can help destigmatize mental health and treatments, therapy, all of that, I think is really beneficial.
Absolutely. And we do it every day. Like, it doesn't get away from us. It's always
Hmm.
the questions that are being asked, and even the clients sometimes have this. They have this thoughts. They have these thoughts that maybe sometimes, like, we can take our own health in our own hands, and that we don't need the help, and that's not
Hmm.
necessarily true. Even to whether it's pharmacology or it's talk therapy or it's just physical health, sometimes asking for help is, it's not a weakness, it's not a vulnerability.
No, but
It is
that's
a
one of the hardest
vulnerability, but
parts, though.
yeah, it's one of the hardest parts, absolutely. But opening up,
Hmm.
it's a step by step process, right? And the first step is to find somebody you care about, and open up, and then that's kind of like a domino effect. It's like a snowball effect. You find that next
Hmm.
person that will be that next step, and then so far they'll make it to your doorstep, monster, sooner or later. But and
Hey, I'll be here, open arms, waiting, doing what I
uh
can to help.
I hope you're a good hugger, man, because holy shit. No, that would be illegal. How about so you talked a little bit about playing games. You talked about
Hmm.
playing Pokemon in competitive tournaments,
Hmm.
playing World of Warcraft, and playing RPGs. Um, Tell me a little bit about like competitive gaming. Did you play in like tournaments? Did you?
So yeah, the card games I played in tournaments, went to did like local and regional stuff from a card game perspective. For I guess video games, I feel like in WoW we were pretty, I don't want to say they're necessarily tournaments, but I felt like we were pretty competitive from a like world's first type of thing. Like we were usually like US 100, for various boss kills and stuff.
Mm.
Um, and growing up, like Halo 2 was like really big. I definitely didn't ever go to regional tournaments, but I practiced a lot with like some of the semi-pro people. So I don't know if you classify as like semi-pro, but I played with a lot of those guys.
Mm.
And then I would say the peak of my gaming competitive career was I was actually I don't know, are you familiar with like Hearthstone, like the
Oh
card
yeah.
game?
Oh yeah.
So I was actually like number one in North America in Hearthstone for like I don't know, like a couple hours or so. And then I went to like Chicago for like one of the national tournaments type of thing. So that's
That's awesome.
my one claim to fame. Was number one in
That's
Hearthstone for a little bit. So
Dude, that's
but
awesome. And if you guys don't know, Hearthstone is one of the most topped. Like it reels in the dollars for tournaments, man. Like those are some big esports tournaments that you see for Hearthstone. So to be like, was it like season one that you were a part of it? Like,
I think it was like 2013. So I think it was like
yeah.
season two or three. I mean, it was like I just remember playing against like Just Sane and people like that that were like really big back then. I don't know if he's still playing, but
Mm.
uh, yeah, like end of the month was like very stressful because you had to be like top 100 legend to earn so many points and stuff like that. So I definitely remember like stressing out and like I remember probably just getting probably too competitive at that time
was
regarding
it
it because
like
it's stressful.
was it like you stressed, like you kind of like excited and like really energetic towards it, or was it like just like
No,
stress?
it was stress. It was bad stress because like you're like you have to finish top 100 and obviously the higher you are, the more points you get. So you
Mm.
might be top 25, but if you stop playing, somebody could pass you. Like if you sat at 25, somebody could play and win and then bump you to 26 or type of thing.
Oh wow,
And
yeah.
so you would have to kind of like stay up and kind of um, potentially play last second to try to keep your spot, or you would just let the game, you would try to drag out the game. So if you were in a losing position, you would drag out the game. So then if you lost, it would actually be for next season because it went over time and not for the sync. So it was definitely a lot of like strategy and stuff and stressful as far as just like managing the end of the season stuff. Um, but even just playing in like the normal tournaments and stuff, they would last all day. Like I would start tournament at like 12 and then it would end at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And you would just because you never knew exactly when you were gonna play, so you would play your match and then you would just kind of hang out and wait for your opponent to catch up to you in the bracket or because you don't know what decks people are playing. Sometimes they're playing very defensive decks, some people are really aggressive decks, and it would just take all day.
You pack a big lunch, wouldn't you?
Fortunately, like Hearthstone, you can just play at home. So yeah, you would just like play your
Oh yeah.
game, and then but you would still have to be here. Like I couldn't go to the gym or I couldn't go
Mm.
do stuff because I never know when my match is gonna be. So you would just be like hanging out here doing whatever. So
Was that the point when you realized that your points? Because it's hard once you realize like you might lose a couple places. It's hard to get those places back, man. Like
mm-hmm.
that. There's even research studies saying that like when you know that you're in this system and you're trying to complete a task and you're losing points every time that you don't complete a task compared
Right.
to
But
like
then there's like but then there's this like you know bias too. It's like, well, you're losing, so you're like, I gotta play more, but like maybe you should just like stop and just keep
right.
like you're stopping, and then you fall out of it, and then you feel worse about it. Yeah.
It's a fucking
So
cycle. Oh
essentially,
god.
I found out that like this was not healthy for me, and then I just like really stopped playing competitive like Hearthstone. Like I got like Legend again last season just because I just see if I still had it, but I don't think I'll ever try to play competitively again. Hmm.
See, that was my next question. So, like, when you play Destiny, it's more for the RPG esque, and
Oh, whoa,
not.
whoa, that's a whole different thing.
I'm just saying, man. Like, well, I mean, like, I know there was like Trials of Osiris and all that
Hmm.
stuff for Destiny and all that, but I figured like when I see you play, it's like casual multiplayer, right? You still get that
Yeah,
taste.
Yeah, so so like so Trials only comes out on the weekends for Destiny, so Friday through like Tuesday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So and for those that don't play Destiny, it's essentially a 3v3 player versus player activity to where it's kind of like an elimination game mode. What hold on, babe. Oh, yeah, I'm doing my thing. Sorry.
Hey.
Essentially it's Trials. It's 3v3 play PvP game mode, and the objective is to win 7 matches in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get 7 matches in a row, you go to what they call the lighthouse, and you essentially get kind of like special loot and gear and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the objective is to win those 7 games in a row, and it's not without losing. And so like that's like the peak of Destiny's gameplay is
Yeah.
to try to go flawless. Um, so it's very competitive, or I take it competitively, just because I've been playing Destiny for a really long time,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like something that I feel like I want to be good at and should be good at, but like it's not always the case. I will say I'm probably maybe too competitive at times and like too hard on myself or teammates because I don't know, I just feel like I should be better than maybe sometimes that we play as, but um I don't know. I really enjoy it. I really like that competitive aspect of games. I've always been for the most part, a competitive person. Um, when it's something that I feel like I should be good at, type of thing, or put in time to be good at.
And you're not like when you're going to work, you're not competitive. You're working with the
No.
team to do your
Hmm.
thing, right? And then when you
Right.
go, but you still have that lingering, like like I kind of want to compete a little bit. Like I want to. Did you
Actually,
ever?
I would actually say when it comes to like work and career wise, like I'm completely fine with actually like if I do something, I don't necessarily want to like be in the spotlight for
Oh
that
yeah.
credit.
Oh.
I'm actually like I don't know. I think it's really just comes down to being competitive, like in like gaming, like just pretty much like gaming. I feel like, and maybe in
Mm-hmm.
sports too, because like we had like a volleyball team and stuff like that, and we by no means were the best. So I tried to just like be casual about it, but still, it's just kind of frustrating to lose all the time, you know. So
Yeah.
just like, but I don't know. So I feel like it's like mainly sports and gaming.
I mean, being competitive is naturalistic. Like
Mhm.
when we do what we do best, and like if we're working in a team to get a job done. Again, for a lot of people, like I don't like the spotlight at all. I just want to
Mhm.
do my job, and like I want to do it as best as
Mhm.
I can, and I want to go home. And then when I'm with my friends, then sure, I might come out in the spotlight a little bit, get a triple kill, do my thing. But like there's always that outlet that we're always trying to find that really allows us to venture out and have it's just this outlet for that competitive side. So I felt like you when you were in your childhood, you had those competitive outlets, and that kind of lingered to now, even though
Sure.
you might not be playing in no tournaments. That's all good, because you're crushing on Destiny, man. I'll tell you what, I like
I got some
watching
crispy snipes every now and
it. Yeah. Oh, they're dirty, man. If anybody
then.
hasn't seen them, check them out. So when you connect with your community,
Hmm.
with streaming, it's not only about Destiny, right? You have
Right. Yeah.
people that come in that if they have any questions about pharmacology or about mental health and stuff, they come and they seek your aid, most likely more for the
Hmm.
biological reasons, right?
Yeah, I feel like a lot. I mean, I definitely connect with my community. So I have like both my Discord and actually Dr. Mix Discord. There's I guess channels to where people can ask me questions about medications, and so I try to answer them the best I can, and as
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned, in an educational way. I always like try to make sure you talk with your doctor about everything before um, doing it. But I feel like a lot of people kind of flock between. So I did a podcast with him, with Dr. Mick, about medications and therapy, and I feel like a lot of my community has transitioned or like shared between the two. So I feel like a lot of my community is actually more mental health related. I don't know if anybody actually watches for my Destiny gameplay, but so I think I just kind of like started there. I think it's mainly mostly mental health and some buddies. Shout out to Jordan, that come and hang out. So,
I
but.
I saw like some of the original interviews you had with Dr. Mick.
Hmm.
Y'all were just playing Destiny and just talking, like shooting the shit.
Yeah,
I thought that was sick. I thought that was awesome, man. Because I saw,
yeah,
I was like, "Yo, he's gaming. Where's Monster? I see you hit. I see you flying over his head, just shotgunning a couple of AIs." I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, wow, they're really, literally shooting the shit."
Hmm.
That's what's up.
I mean, him and like I said, him and I go way back. We've unfortunately never met in person. That's definitely on my list
Mhm.
if I ever visit down to Vegas. But we we started like in Destiny 1 raids. Like we were up to like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning on Fridays or Saturday nights, just doing those raid activities in Destiny and just shooting the shit and just yeah. And you come to find out, him and I ended up both in mental health fields, and like he did his whole dissertation on video games, and like I was in his dissertation. Like it's crazy.
Shit, why not?
So yeah. So
I read just a little bit. I gotta finish his dissertation. It's like a book for me, you know. My ADHD
yeah,
sometimes gets fucking
I
sucked
feel
in.
that. It's something like I feel like I read so much for like scientific journals and stuff at work that like I've definitely fallen out of reading for fun or enjoyment because I don't want to do that. I just want to come home and watch TV or play video games or whatever.
Hey, look, you've been published in this article. All right, I'll read it later. Just give me a
Yeah, get
second. Let
on the
me
list.
yeah, let me get a couple of headshots and then I'll come on.
Yeah.
So now that you've what really inspired you to become a streamer, more or less?
So I guess when I first started, um, I mainly streamed Hearthstone and a little bit of WoW, and I felt like I was
Okay.
just like both good at those games. And actually, I would say my perspective on streaming has changed from when I first started to what it is now. So when I first started, it was mainly just like I felt like about the gameplay. I felt like I was good at the game. I could really help, people like learn how to play Shadow Priest and WoW, or
Mm-hmm.
learn how to play Hearthstone, how to become a better Hearthstone player, things like that. Now, I mean, I don't make it wrong. I mean, I definitely want to play Destiny and hopefully people come and like watch the gameplay and stuff. But I think more it's about kind of that mental health community being able to, very similar to what Dr. Mix said, just being able to provide this information for people who are not normally able to get this information and something at a platform that they're on a lot. I'm on Twitch all the time. I feel like it's like I don't even really watch TV. I really, it's like I mainly watch Twitch, and so I think a lot of people have that very similar um escape or they're watching Twitch and instead of regular TV. So I feel like the outreach is a lot more accessible for people. And I think it's in a way that they're comfortable with sharing information and actually receiving that information. So it's a lot more mental health focused, I would say, than gaming.
If a parent came up and asked you, "Why is my kid watching somebody else play video games online? Why is he watching that on his computer?" Would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, I feel like I could be able to answer from my own situation. So I think one, if somebody's like really interested in like video games or something, like they're just learning to, pick up on tips and tricks to help improve their gameplay. But I think a lot too is, these friends that build like friendships and communities with like online, people they met online. And I think some of my best relationships are people who I met online. Like some of these people I've never ever met in person, but are some of my best friends in life. And people don't really get that concept, right? They're like, how can you have or form a relationship with somebody if you've never really met them? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and and maybe I think that's might be just like an older generation because I feel like now, obviously TikTokers, whatever, Instagram people, influencers, I guess is the name now. I think that's just kind of like the younger generation. So maybe it's a little bit more acceptable than what it was when we were growing up. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's mainly about the friendships and the community and then, obviously that side piece as far as like potentially improving, gameplay or seeing games that like for example, I really like to watch StarCraft streams. Like I have never been like a very good what is it, RPS or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the genre of those games are, but I love watching those strategy games. I mean I played StarCraft, I wasn't by any means good at it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just kind of interesting watching different genres of games and you're like, I'm kind of interested in that, but like never really get around to playing it, type of thing. Like Dark Souls is one of them. Like I feel like I really enjoy that game, but I like, I feel like if I'm gaming, I just like go back to what I know, Destiny or Hearthstone.
My guilty pleasure is watching Rocket League because there's
Oh, okay.
things I can't do that they can do so well, and it's just like an art form. You're just
Yeah.
watching this little, freaking race car just fly around and hit balls like across the map. Like I can't do that, but it's so like,
Yeah, it's amazing what
visually
people can do,
appealing.
man.
Yeah, right. Like, and they dedicate so much time to these games. Like a lot of these streamers, just because you have a lot of viewers doesn't mean you're the best at the game, but it means you dedicate a lot of the time to understanding and doing, the game right, so that people
Right.
watching you, they get something out of it, even if they don't know what the culture's like in your stream. So what, like, I think you brought up a really good point about understanding culture within the stream. You might go see Tim Tadman, he might react, he's not the best player, but then you go and you see, like, you might see Too Fast, like a really good Rocket
Mm-hmm.
League player. He's not talking a lot, but he's doing a lot of flips and tricks. You know,
Right.
I think you brought up a good point about culture, really.
Hmm.
Um, so your first year streaming is really all about, providing that, like, maybe some information about Hearthstone and what was it, Halo a little bit, and
Yeah, yeah. I
that's
feel like it was just like World of Warcraft, and it was
World
just
of
kind of more from
Warcraft.
like a gaming focus, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because at that time I was in pharmacy school and stuff like that, so that took
Yeah.
up a lot of my time studying, and I still worked at the time as an intern at Walgreens, and so yeah, I was pretty much just there focusing like on the gameplay when I was raiding, or just like playing Hearthstone, climbing the ladder.
Always, baby. What'd your family and friends think when they said, hey, "Oh, you're a
Um,
streamer"?
Actually, to be honest, like I feel like when I first started streaming, I mean, I think my like dad knew a
Mm-hmm.
little bit, but I don't really feel like I told anybody. I don't know, maybe I was like, I don't know, ashamed or something of it, you know? Like again, I
Yeah.
think just kind of growing up with that mentality of just like um like gaming, like you're spending too much time gaming, that type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But now like it's like on my like Instagram profile and stuff like that, and I feel like most people know that I stream and stuff, and they don't really say too much. I think they watch. I just but they don't really say like, "Oh, are you making any money off of that?" or like, "How's your stream going?" Like, I don't really get comments on it. It's just kind of something like a hobby that I do, or that they think that I do, type of thing. Um, I will say interesting though is my grandparents talked about streaming like the last time I was able to go home, and because
Wow.
so I'm from Nebraska, and actually that's where Dr. Lupo lives, is in Nebraska,
Yeah.
and they always the newspaper there always writes a big article, I guess, on Lupo when he does his charities for what's his the children hospital, that St.
Right.
Jude's. And so he was just my grandfather was just very like surprised about how successful he is, and obviously the good charity work that he does. And I was just giving my grandpa crap, like, yeah, I was like, if you would let me just play video games, like who knows where I could have gone, But it's just crazy to think like, because that was like just right when Twitch was like coming out, It's
Oh
just
yeah.
like crazy that people obviously are making careers out of this type of thing, and how much influence that they have on
You sh-
people, and businesses and stuff.
Imagine if a couple of those bigger streamers came on to the bonfire and talked about what their life was before they started streaming. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee you, a lot of them said they were doing low end jobs. They were just trying to
Hmm.
figure out what identity was, like what they wanted to do, what made them happy, you know. And a lot of them, I can tell you, started out with nothing. Like where we
Hmm.
are, that's it's not nothing, but it's still something, that still needs to be built on more and more every day. For them, it's, they you can't say they got lucky because they worked their asses off to have something that they, you
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. I mean, I don't think, maybe there might be a couple of those big streamers that may have had some luck, but streaming and building like a YouTube community and all that stuff at the very beginning, Like it takes dedication and hard work for sure. Anybody that thinks otherwise, yeah, just start streaming or do whatever. And you're gonna have those like months of people like. I mean, I don't have like a big following, but you're gonna be streaming to like yourself for like a while, you know, type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it can be sure, I'm sure discouraging at times, but you gotta just put in that hard work and dedication and you can just keep with it. Because I really liked chemistry in high school, so I was able to, to keep kind of that as well as still being able to provide like healthcare for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found psych pharmacy, and that was just like golden, the best of both worlds.
Mm. What you said you didn't want to write a big ass dissertation.
Dude, I hate writing papers.
So where do you think your strengths are in, when you were going through school? This is kind of where I figured out what my strengths were when it came to
Hmm.
like working with clients. What do you think yours were?
I think definitely like science and math. I mean, if we're gonna go back to like the ACT stuff,
Oh, same.
my English was really poor. I mean,
Really?
but everything else was fine. I can't speak words, but science and math were good. So, but I think just also I think being able to relate to people, have empathy, and I think went a long way.
Did you understand? So when we talk about the difference between talk therapy and pharmacology, it's really that's like the most scientific part about it is understanding the differences in medication and like I think I even heard Dr. Vic say like that's just too much for us, man. Like that's like what I'm okay writing a big paper if I don't have to memorize a textbook of all these medications. I mean, we
Well,
can
that's the
understand the
thing. Like,
basics, but
I don't have to
Jesus.
memorize all of those medications, type of thing. Like all the stuff I learned in school, like it's kind of like if you don't use it, you kind of lose it. So like oncology drugs and things. I mean, I have like an idea, but it's all about really knowing like where you can find that information quickly to answer like a doctor's question or any sort of drug interactions. Yeah, like Jordan had said in chat, I just Google it.
You just
So
Google it? Yeah. Google's a useful tool, man. Wikipedia, I'll tell you what, good resources. Maybe the information might be skewed, but the resources, I'll tell you what, got me through a lot of midterms.
yeah.
Uh, but I mean, that's super important that you said that. Like it's at a certain point it comes natural to you, and there's certain things
Hmm.
that you just know off the top of your head, and that you don't
Right.
have to. It's in your preconscious brain, and you just don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But for for a guy like me, if I wanted to get into like medicine and all that shit, yeah, say goodbye to the next 4 years of my life because I'm gonna have to dedicate everything I got to understanding what it means to read a fucking label and memorize that label. No
Sure.
way.
I mean, I feel like some of that, like the more like I feel like basic information of just like how like some antidepressants work and stuff like that, and just
Oh
being able
yeah.
to identify adverse effects. So I actually did a lecture to psychology interns about like just kind of an intro to psychopharmacology, and just kind of going over like the basics, just so like when the patient's talking to you guys, they might bring something up that they don't bring up to us,
Mm-hmm.
and for you to be able to recognize like, oh, that's an adverse effect or something like that's going on, you can relay that to the team so we can help like better manage the patient.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of a collaborative, effort on everybody's part because not the patient does not tell you everything, does
Oh
not tell
no, no.
everyone everything. So,
Sometimes it takes a whole session to get something out of a client,
oh
and
yeah,
that's all you get. Like sometimes a client will be quiet for the whole time, and you're just doing the same thing, and you just wait till one little mum, and then that's the bird is the word. I mean, there's a lot that can be said about you know a client saying I had a bad week, right? Like
hmm,
that's even opening up for for some clients who are introverted who are not used to opening up and asking for help and doing all these things. For somebody to ask Monster for help is like like you're asking questions about your medication and everything. And sure, you kind of expect these things, but sometimes like some clients don't think they need to be there, right? There are clients.
Sure.
There are clients that think that they're okay. Oh my god, that's good.
Sorry, I had to host you again
No,
with
no,
the
no, it's all
screaming
good.
down.
I told you that shit is loud. Um, but you know, this is what's important about you know the two sides of the coin that we're talking about with talk therapy and pharmacology is this aspect of how we provide help, given that it's not just us that's doing all the work. It's not just Monster doing all the work. I mean, he takes a
Hmm.
huge part, but again, we work as a team. So I maybe lost my competitive edge in the field my first month that I was there, and then I realized, holy shit, I need help with this one kid. And so
Hmm.
we had a collaborative system for this one kid I was working with, where he had a safe room. He had this person to talk to about certain issues. He had me to talk to about certain issues, and blah de da. And that's how the field works in healthcare. Is that
Hmm.
everybody pitches in and everybody does their thing. What do you
Yeah,
think?
sometimes with like, I mean, as far as from an inpatient perspective, um, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the background that patients might not be aware about. I'm not sure as far as like an outpatient setting, but from an inpatient setting, there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
from like social working,
Mm-hmm.
pharmacy, checking things, obviously working at patients, kind of all around.
Tell us a little bit about that environment being in an inpatient and we talked a little bit about the staff you work with, but
Hmm.
just kind of uh, that environment that you work around and like where clients are and where you're stationed at in comparison.
Yeah, so my office is actually pretty close to, I would say, the units.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, as far as like inpatient psych unit, I feel like, people that are not familiar with like mental health, they think of like the movies and stuff. They think
Oh
of
yeah.
like, padded rooms, restraints, seclusion rooms, all that stuff. But honestly, for the most part, it looks like pretty much like a medical unit, but there are different, I mean, the units do have to be kind of constructed in a way to where a patient's not able to harm themselves. So, for example, like the paintings that we have, like they are bolted down. All the handles, like door handles, are actually rounded and smooth, so patients aren't able to, you know, try to harm themselves with like their bed sheets or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't get me wrong, we do have seclusion rooms for patients that may get agitated, but for the most part, like we do have security staff there, but for the most part, it's a fairly safe environment. Usually, the nurses station is kind of like right in the middle of the unit, so they can kind of see everything that they need to. But I mean, there's like a day area, there's group areas, there's
Mm-hmm.
conference rooms, all kind of like on the unit.
Mm-hmm.
It is a locked, all my units are locked units, so like patients are not able to go.
Mm-hmm. And so pretty much you have everything you need. Is there ever a point where you might run out of resources and like ever?
Um, no, 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 for the most part. I have my own office that has like my computer and like all my like literature resources and things that I would need there, but there's also computers and stuff on the unit. All the medications and things like that are there.
Mm-hmm.
So
And that's
I think you had a question from a soul eater in chat.
Oh
Just
yeah, no.
looking at.
What we're talking about here is we're doing our little bonfire interview where we interview streamers online on Twitch about their journey to becoming a streamer. But we have a very special guest today. We have Monster, who is a psych pharmacist, board certified and everything, and
Yeah.
he's talking to us about his experiences working with pharmacology and working with clients and what it means to have this role as a as a psych pharmacist, and that's not what we usually typically see with somebody behind the counter selling you pills and you know walking around with their little lab coats. Now this is a little bit different, uh, and we're talking again. We're comparing inpatient versus outpatient. Like
Hmm.
I don't usually do this because usually a lot of talk therapists work in outpatient. We work with
Hmm.
in private sectors. We work outside of the public sector. But when you work in when you work in inpatient, it's a whole different
Mhm.
environment. Could you maybe talk about like the differences like in inpatient and outpatient?
Yeah, so so with inpatient, like I said, it's kind of more of that collaborative practice of everybody. So between like nursing staff, pharmacy, the providers, whether it be nurse practitioners, doctors like MDs,
Mm,
and then kind of medical residents and medical students. So the facility I'm at is like kind of like very much like a academic medical center enterprise.
mm,
So we have a lot of medical residents and students that come through. So a lot of teaching and like academia portion of that. And like I said, it's kind of like my role is kind of more of a consult service. So I'm not any patient's like main provider. I'm kind of more of kind of a support staff and helping the team make um, like come up with the best medication regimen that's safe and effective for our patients. Now, from an outpatient setting, it's a little bit different, depending on what like where like private sector versus like VA hospital. So
mm,
I did my training at VA hospitals in Alabama and then in Pittsburgh. So there, I actually have a scope of practice, and I actually act like I'm able to be a provider, like a mid-level provider, similar to like a nurse practitioner. And I
mm,
actually saw patients one-on-one, had my own 30-minute appointments. I could prescribe medications, I could prescribe labs, I could consult other services, like for example, you guys. Um, for whatever my patient needed, I essentially, for the most part, could do. The only things I couldn't do were diagnose, and I could not really admit somebody to a inpatient psych unit. I would have to get the collaborating psychiatrist that I was working under, and they would have to take over that. So I pretty much did a lot of the med management types of things, and provide support listening. Pharmacists are not able to provide therapy per se, but I mean we can give like your traditional like supportive listening and advice here and there, or different perspectives on what the patient may be going on.
mm,
But for the most part, it's mainly just kind of talking about the medications, how they're working, any side effects, and managing those. Now, various states are, I guess, allowing pharmacists to kind of have the provider status, and
mm,
so we might see a little bit more pharmacists in the private sector setting kind of act like a more mid-level provider role outside of kind of the VA system. But the VA has kind of been I would say, front runner or leader in that area for a long time now, as far as expanding pharmacist scope of practice.
mm.
So,
And nurse practitioners as well. I know that they're starting to move into the private sector as well, and
yeah,
and
absolutely.
which is great. Like I think it's a really great way to expand your business. I wanted to also talk about when we talk about the business side of it, we talk about insurance and working
hmm
with insurance companies and all that. Um,
hmm
you know, when we work with insurance companies, it's not to screw you over. It's we want to provide you with the most affordable care possible, right? And
Right.
in order to do that, there's certain things you have to do. As for somebody who advocates for affordable health care, what is
hmm
kind of the things that you have to do to kind of get through Medicaid and Medicare and all that?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I would say a lot of times insurance companies will dictate care and instead of the providers, dictating the care, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the insurance companies are like, well, you need to be on this medication. Well, the provider's like, well, my patient is doing really well on this medication and should be on this medication. If we
Mm-hmm.
switch to something else, I don't know how that patient's going to react or do on that medication. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times it's having to deal with prior auths with the insurance company, which I fortunately don't have to deal with, but I know the providers do.
Yeah.
I feel like on a daily basis. From a pharmacy standpoint, from an inpatient side, we have a hospital formulary that we kind of have, which is essentially just like a list of medications that our
Mm-hmm.
hospital carries or can get, and we receive like we have various, I guess, contracts or something with those companies to like get deals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So like we don't carry every like allergy medication. We might just have like Zyrtec or something.
Mm-hmm.
We don't carry Claritin or Allegra. So, um, but for like, and maybe some of the more expensive medications for like MS or something or like seizure medications, we might not carry those, but we carry alternatives. There's just not really a feasible way to carry every medication that's out there, and that's reasonable for us.
Mm.
But for me, like if we're thinking about prescribing like a newer agent, maybe like a brand name only, because it's still in patent, like I'll try to help facilitate that with outpatient pharmacy to where like, hey, does their insurance cover it? Does it not? What are some ways that we can get them into patient assistant programs, copay assistant programs to kind of help relieve some of that financial burden that the patient may have?
Mm.
I always actually preach in my lectures to students and residents that if patients can't afford their medications, they're not going to take their medications. So
Yeah.
we need to really advocate for that financial point, like part of therapy and treatment for the patient because a lot of times our patients are in group homes, they don't have a job, they are on Medicaid and things like that, and their income is limited.
Mm.
And they might actually be moving, they might be homeless, so they might not have a one spot that they can stay, so maybe giving them a 90-day supply versus a 30-day supply so they don't have to keep coming back to the pharmacy every month is more beneficial type of thing.
Mm.
So you got to take in a lot of those situations to help bring down some of those barriers that somebody might have.
You're always a businessman, even no matter what you're doing, you're always considering, how are you going to benefit the people that you're working with.
Yeah, and actually, like that's part of my job as like a clinical pharmacist is to be
Mm.
cost effective. So I actually implemented a what we call a therapeutic interchange. So like if you order this medication, pharmacists can actually automatically switch it to this other medication that's cheaper.
Mm.
Um, and just
Very
humble
cool.
brag, I guess, I'm actually saving the hospital like 100 grand per year. That's something that I just recently did. So it's a nice chunk of change. Um,
Are they giving you a raise anytime soon,
I
or
wish. Is there commission off of that?
what's going
But
on, man? I
no,
like
so
it.
yeah, but I that's something that I like. Maybe that's just something like that's financials and I guess money has always been kind of instilled in me to be like man, like just growing up, just kind of something that's been a value, I guess, to
Mm.
manage and do. So I definitely apply that to my career as well, to patients.
Absolutely. I mean, if it's not a value to you, it's goddamn a value to 99% of the fucking world. So
Yeah.
listen, I mean, when we talk about this business aspect of it,
Hmm.
again, the first thing we think about is insurance company. What we want to know is that, as a client or as a patient, we're being supported by agents of, or the staff that are working
Hmm.
with you. I know social workers have a lot more free reign of what they can do in comparison to,
Hmm.
say an LPC such as myself
Sure.
or somebody such as yourself. So I know that there's different ways in which you know, different licensures can create different opportunities for things and it's very complicated, but what's really more important is that you're working with a team that is trying to unify into this one objective, which is to make sure that your client is getting everything they need. Even if
Hmm.
it's a cheaper option, it's still the next best thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we definitely try to. Sometimes I'm thinking of like our alcohol and drug rehab clinics.
Mm.
A lot of time our social workers are trying to find the best inpatient rehab clinics for them, and sometimes figuring out which places are covered by their insurance. I know it's a big responsibility that they have to try to manage, and I'm sure is not easy. Uh, so by no means like are like the people trying to take care of you trying to like screw you out of money or something like that. We are like trying to provide you
Mm.
the best care that we can for as little money as possible. Or
What?
speaking for myself, I guess.
No, absolutely. I mean, you got me there.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to ask you a question about substance abuse and working with
Hmm.
those who are dealing with substance abuse or issues
Hmm.
regarding it. When it comes to as a consultant, and that somebody might be well, I don't know if they might be abusing their medication or whatnot. I mean, if it was Suboxone or Methadone, I mean, that's a
Hmm.
whole different story compared to whatever it is. But, when you're working with those type of clients, what are some things you have to keep in mind?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, I mean, for me, we see a lot of alcohol. We see a lot of heroin, um, a lot of like crack cocaine abuse.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, it's actually one area that I feel like I struggle a little bit is helping. What's the word for it? Like I don't say like my own views. I think it's just kind of more. It's just really this patient population is very very hard
Mm-hmm.
to work in, and I absolutely cherish anybody who finds a passion in helping those with substance abuse. It's very hard for me to do that because as a caregiver, we at least for me this field, I can give them as much medication and as much education as can as possible. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like until that person makes their own choice that, hey, I need to do this for me, or I need to do this for my family, or whoever it may be that they're doing it for,
Mm-hmm.
they need to make that decision. So that's
Right.
hard for me because like I want to obviously, help them get better and and when it sucks to see them constantly, struggle or relapse over and over and over again. I don't know if that's necessarily provider fatigue, but it can
Mm-hmm.
be very difficult. And so I think the biggest thing for me and what I'm trying to learn and instill into my students is, especially with addiction, is you have to meet them where they're at in their care. Like, hey, like here are the resources I have. These are the resources I can get you. Um, but and even if they're not ready, like you let me know when you're ready. Like these doors are always open for you, and hopefully that's before they have a very serious overdose or something to where that might take their life. But just letting them know that like, hey, we're here for you when you're ready. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
I know, very hard sometimes because we want to just take care of everybody, but
Right.
you know it's addiction's hard, man. It's one of the hardest, I feel, illnesses to treat.
And even for counselors, the biggest burnout is working with substance abuse population.
Hmm.
So it goes both ways. I'd say it's really. I think you kind of touched on it. Really finding or kind of waiting for that breakthrough to happen, and even
Hmm.
when that does happen, you're still, that there could be what's the word? There could be
Some
it could happen
hesitancy,
again.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
it could
yeah, yeah.
happen
Oh yeah.
again,
Hmm.
and so you have to be ready for that. As a counselor or as a consultant or whoever it is, or even as the client, right? Putting yourself in their shoes, they know
Hmm.
that coming into your office, they're doubtful, but they
Hmm.
are still hopeful. There's still a little part of them that
Right.
is still hopeful that
Hey, the fact
something
that
might
they
change.
even showed up, like
Right.
I think that's one of the huge indicators. The fact that they
Mm-hmm.
even showed up for any sort, either showing up at the door to get care or making that next outpatient appointment from an inpatient stay, or
Mm-hmm.
even going to that clinic, I think is a huge step, like that people may overlook. Like that is a huge thing, for patients who struggle with that.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean,
Mhm.
for them to, even if they don't want to be there, but the fact that they walked in, that's
Mhm.
huge, right? Like just them looking around, scanning their environment, mapping out their surroundings, whatever it is. They're still taking notes of, okay, well, maybe I could, maybe I could do this.
Mhm.
Like most of the times when you go through repeated periods of shit in your life, you always consistently think of, okay, well, what's next, right?
Mhm.
But then you also start to think about what ifs, right? When we
Right.
think about what ifs, like, oh, God forbid, we think about pragmatically what could actually benefit us in just tomorrow. What good things could happen tomorrow that could actually benefit us. You know?
Yeah, I think it's all about just trying to, well, maybe not all about, a big part of it is
Big, yeah.
changing our mindset and our perspective on what's going on. Like you mentioned, a lot of times we immediately go to that negative outlook on whatever we may be experiencing. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in this specific example, be like, okay, here, what's going on? Like, what are the positives? Okay, like I made it here. Like I'm safe right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is like a new start, and just taking those baby steps and just trying to focus on what's like the positives there. I think can help somebody go a long way.
Mm-hmm. If there was something that you could do to make this better, well,
Mm.
not, let me rephrase that question. If there was something that you could do to help encourage people to come in and walk through the doors, what would you do? As somebody, as a consultant,
Hmm.
and that's difficult because you're just, you're working with pharmacology. So,
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I think is actually not from like even a medication standpoint. I mean, there's definitely medications that can help with some of the addictions, mainly like alcohol, I feel like is a big one,
mm,
with naltrexone or Vivitrol. But I think just knowing that I think a lot of times people get into that rut and they, self-medicate with substances that like you're not alone in the situation. A lot of times people will get into that situation where they don't have any hope, they don't feel like anybody's able to help them, but I really feel like people who manage substance abuse and help people like this every day, like there's a reason why they're there. Like they want to do that and they're very passionate about it and they care. Like they truly do care. And
mm-hmm,
it just knowing that like that door is always open for you, that resource is always there, no matter how many times you come in and out, or come in and then turn around and leave, that resource is there, and just trying to get rid of, try to destigmatize. Stigma is such a big thing, um, affecting mental health. I think it's better. I think our society's headed in a better direction and
mm-hmm,
becoming more aware about it, but it's nowhere where it needs to be. And I think stigma is a really big thing. It's people with like heroin addicts, they might say like, oh, he's just a junkie or whatever,
mm-hmm,
whatever it may be. Like you hear it all the time, um, but you don't know their story. You don't know why um, they ended up in the spot that they were. Maybe they were like, for example, like veterans all the time. They went over obviously to war and they might have gotten injured, and then they were put on all these opioids, and then
mm-hmm,
they come back, and then the CDC and VA is like, sorry, we can't give you these opioids now, and like
yeah,
they're like, well, what other choice do I have? So it like sometimes you hear the stories and like, yeah, it makes sense. Like probably would have ended up the same way. So it's just
mm-hmm,
like we don't know these people's stories, um, and I don't know. It just try to drop the stigma barrier when possible. Try to leave our whatever values or beliefs that we might have for or against or whatever it may be, and just then take care of the patient.
mm-hmm. And I'm sure you work with a lot of clients with dual diagnoses,
Oh yeah,
comorbidity
I mean
disorders and
every
all
like
of
every
that.
patient I feel like has that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think with that is, uh, there's a medical model for this, right?
Hmm.
Is to not necessarily work towards the symptoms, but rather the origins of where the symptoms are coming from, rather.
Hmm.
And I was just curious on your perspective of when you're considering different medications for what clients need,
Hmm.
analyzing the symptoms. What are some things you're looking for? Just some basic things.
Yeah, I think so with dual diagnosis, it's kind of the chicken and the egg concept.
Mm-hmm.
So was it the addiction that caused depression and potential showing of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, whatever it may be?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it depression, anxiety, the mental illness, and then they self-medicated with substances? So
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, I feel like we don't really, from what I've seen clinically working with providers, they don't really try to tease out like which came first.
Yeah.
But they kind of treat them both at the same time. So we will say, for example, it's alcohol. We might try naltrexone to kind of help with those alcohol cravings,
Right.
and then we also treat the depression with like antidepressants, like SRIs, things like that. So we do just kind of manage it both at the same time
Mm-hmm.
and potentially provide some medications that provide benefit for both groups. So,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And as I think putting it on the money is finding what's leading to what, right? And that's so
hmm.
hard to do is reading patterns of, especially if a client is not being honest. Is
Yeah,
yeah,
unfortunately, we have to take with what we get, right?
right.
But
You're always putting a puzzle together, but in
mm,
the end, you're really doing the best you can as a pharmacist or even as somebody in psychiatry. So again, I really appreciate you talking about these things because, we understand mental health as therapy, but we don't really consider the other side of what therapy is and what
Hmm.
psychiatry is. And that is a whole nother branch you know, of health that is really specific to um, physical health. And
Hmm.
as you mentioned, it's not even just medication. It's our diet. It's our sleeping habits. It's
Sleep
the
is so important.
yes.
Sleep is
Oh,
so important, guys. Get your sleep. Don't stay up to 4 o'clock playing video games, please.
all right, man. I guess I'll. But Bad Batch is coming out, man. We got
Yeah.
episode 2 of Bad Batch. No, just kidding.
Uh,
Yeah, but like seriously, it's really important. Your physical activity, the way you eat, and sleeping
mhm.
habits are extremely important to what you do. And I mean, if we're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're looking at the very first section, which is your just basic physical needs. Um,
Mhm.
and when it comes to what we ingest, like vitamins and the things, uh, just real quick, what are some kind of things that you kind of help yourself with when it comes to getting the nutrition you need, like the vitamins that you need, the amount of iron you need, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, I just like we take a daily multivitamin,
Mm-hmm.
and with being in Cleveland, it rains and it's cloudy all the time, so we take like vitamin D
Right.
supplements. But I think for the most part, we do a really good job at just trying to eat healthy. Like I can't we like rarely ever eat fast food. Pretty much everything's for the most part home cooked. We're actually trying HelloFresh out this week, so that's
Hmm.
been kind of cool, learning some new recipes, learning how to be a better cook. Uh, and but yeah, we've just really just try to eat healthy and get our exercise in. And I would say sleep. I probably am not the best at. I feel like during the week I average like 5 or 6 hours, but like then I catch up on the weekends. But yeah, like you said, it's a combination of everything. I think people, I can tell when I have fast food or pop, like I feel sluggish.
Mm.
And I think once people kind of change their habits and they notice that, um, yeah, what you eat, right? So,
I was gonna say you're doing better than Mick, man. He's riding on like 4 hours every night. I'm like, yo, dude, what are
yeah, I
you
don't know
doing?
how he does it. The guy's a champion though.
Dude, like he gets off work, maybe eats dinner with Allie, and then he hops
Mhm.
on. He plays for like 7 hours straight on stream. I'm
Yeah,
like, yo, who are you, bro?
yeah. He's
What about? I was gonna ask you about caffeine
hmm.
while we're talking about it. What is your thoughts on caffeine and the appropriate uses of it?
Um, I mean, as far as caffeine goes, so there's definitely some medications that can be affected by caffeine from a
Mm-hmm.
pharmacology perspective. Um, but for like my own personal use, I usually just feel like I drink a cup of coffee every day. I will say I was really bad in high school. I drank tons and tons of pop.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have like a fructose intolerance now, so I actually can't have anything, or I
Oh
shouldn't
damn.
have anything that has high fructose corn syrup in it, or anything like that. I gotta watch like what fruit I eat. I can't really have like corn. And
Ah.
so just it's so I don't know if that was like self-induced or whatever, but the long
Nebraska,
gaming
man.
hours, yeah, the long gaming hours, drinking a bunch of pop is not the answer. I think with everything in moderation. I don't necessarily think it's like a no-go, but I think as long as it's not an excessive amount type of thing, you're not overdoing it, you're still getting adequate amount of sleep. Um, you're still able to like focus and do things. I think it's cool for
Mm-hmm.
mine.
So what we usually like to do when before we like end our interviews is talk about things that we look forward to the future,
Oh, sure.
within the year, for the most
Okay.
part. So when you're thinking about the stream or when you're thinking about psychiatry,
Mhm.
whatever it may be, how where do you see yourself in a year? Do you see anything changing? Do you see just kind of a regular schedule where you kind of
Sure.
balance it?
Yeah, I think for as far as like aspirations for my stream, I think just kind of like growing like my Discord community, growing my stream. I kind of, if there's interest, maybe doing some YouTube videos actually talking about like these various like antidepressant medications. Like so similar to what I would do to my with my medical students and residents, but like
Mm-hmm.
making like a video like, hey, like today we're talking about SSRIs and just kind of going through some of like the basic information there so people um can get familiar with and like ask questions. Um, I think that's probably the biggest thing is just kind of becoming a little bit more of an outlet for educational purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I am lazy, so I'm probably gonna need some push from people if that's really what they want. So I'm kind of one of those people that like I want to do things that are beneficial and effective. I don't like busy work, you know. That's what I tell
Mm-hmm.
my students. Like nothing that I give you is just busy work. Like there's a reason why I'm giving this to you. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, I think that'd be a good aspect to do and try to kind of engage more with like the mental health community on Twitch, kind of doing interviews and stuff. I kind of want to do a AMA actually on Reddit,
Mm-hmm.
where I can help answer questions about medications that people are interested in, and kind of just continue to provide that outlet for people to talk about mental health, like in this kind of a safe space type of thing. And then my other thing that it's kind of more of a personal goal of mine is to try not to be as salty about trials. Like Destiny PvP just sucks. Like there's just some BS mechanics that I can't really control. It's just the way it is. And sometimes you're just gonna lose games that you aren't really supposed to lose. So I'm trying to do better about just like just is what it is. It's just the way the game is, right? It's not supposed to be it's not like Valorant or something that's like a competitive game type of thing. So I just try not to be as salty, I guess, on stream.
I'll
I know
convert you.
that can definitely be a turn off for people to watch. So
I'll convert you over to Squadrons.
you're
He
gonna
doesn't
try
get
to
a lot of
convert me over to
followers, but
Squadrons
yeah, man, he gets
and
that
Battlefront?
joystick. Yeah, bro.
Okay.
Battlefront, Squadrons, Old Republic, whatever you need, bro. Yeah, yeah. That's great. That's a great list, man. That's really thorough. You definitely want to excel in multiple areas, especially for the stream. I mean, you want to provide psychoeducation.
Hmm.
I think that people benefit off of it. As I said before, not a lot of people have a psych pharmacist come in on stream and talk a little bit about their career and what they,
Right.
the clients they work with, and their role in therapy, right? And
Yeah.
that's tough. That's tough. You have the doctors and then you have the psychiatrists. Like they're
Yeah, also, I mean, to piggyback off that real fast, I mean, for me personally, when I went into pharmacy school, literally only thought there was retail pharmacy and then hospital pharmacy.
oh wow.
Boy, when I got into pharmacy school and learned up like what I could all do with my degree and all of the options out there, it was mind blowing. So I can't imagine like the general public knowing exactly they're like what the psych pharmacist is like, what the hell is that? Like I get it. Like because I didn't understand 5, 6 years ago, type of thing. So I think again, just being able to provide that education for people and get it out there. And to be honest, sometimes we are a lot more accessible than psychiatrists. So we're able to provide the information for people.
I mean, there's a lot of work that goes in an inpatient that a lot of people don't realize. Even if you had a counselor who've worked in outpatient, or even if you've been in an inpatient for like 2 weeks or whatever the time period is, this man works there every day.
Yeah,
Just
I sure
remember
sure
that.
do.
So,
Yeah, we actually do. We do ECT, so
oh
electrical convulsive therapy, which
yeah,
a lot of people are like, oh, shock therapy. That's got to be like the movies and stuff, which is not. It's actually very anticlimactic, but it works very, very well. So
they
I always
usually.
try to get. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they usually start on low voltage, right? How the
Yeah,
treatment
yeah, yeah. You should
is,
start
yeah.
low voltage and stuff like that. But it's always I always try to get my students to see one or two, just because it's a pretty unique situation. A lot of times a lot of times my students don't go into psych pharmacy, so something that they're probably never ever going to see again. So it's just kind of a unique experience for them to see.
Absolutely. I feel like you should always see something once if you're gonna be around it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
for I used to work in an addiction treatment center at UPenn, I didn't get to use the what is it called, the fMRIs or whatever, because I
Oh yeah,
wasn't I would, I was there for a summer internship, but I was a part of, and I got to experience what an L2 does and everything, and it was
yeah,
it was mind boggling, even though I didn't get to be there. But it's still an experience. If you're a student, try to absorb as much as you can, because you never know when you're going to be in this situation where you're going to need that knowledge. Like for a doctor,
yeah.
when somebody calls you on a plane and they need a doctor, you gotta
But
you gotta
I'm not standing up, bro. I'm not standing up, Amy.
you gotta deliver this baby, bro. We need help. I'm
I'm
good.
not that kind of doctor.
No, exactly. And,
It was funny though that actually there was a potential situation where like somebody had like overheated on the plane
mm,
and they were like asking for a doctor and nobody was doing anything. I'm like, am I gonna have to do this? Like, am I the only one that like has some sort of healthcare background? So
and you didn't have to
fortunately there
get
was a
that far.
doctor on plane.
Yeah.
Fortunately there was
Okay.
a doctor on plane that
Good.
managed it, but I was just like, whew, close. I don't know if I'm qualified.
Pray to whoever's there, man. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
Um,
So
what about for yourself? How would you improve on your mental health, mindfulness, self care?
yeah, so I think for me, it kind of goes back to for my stream, but like try not to like take the game it's hard for me because I'm very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
But just trying to like be a little bit more realistic and have better expectations for um what like why am I gaming, right? I'm gaming because to get away from work or whatever, to come home and relax for the day. Like that's what's important, right? Hanging out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we win a game or not, it's not at the end of the day, it's not really that big of a deal, right?
Right.
So focusing on what's important.
Don't get too pissed, man. At
Uh,
trousers.
Trials is tomorrow, so whatever I say
Yeah.
is subject to change.
We're gonna start our diet from
Yeah.
trials next week, man. This week we're anything can happen, bro.
Yeah.
If you had any advice to a new gamer or a new streamer, what would that be?
From a gamer standpoint, I mean, as long as I feel like it's not interfering with your like daily responsibilities, or like you're still getting your stuff done. I mean, I feel like do what you're passionate about. I feel like for me, I've been defending gaming, like my gaming hobby all my life to
Mm-hmm.
people, and I think at the end of the day, right now, like before I'd be like, oh, whatever, yeah, like you're right. Or, I just like get super like defensive about it. But like at the same time now I've also put up boundaries for people like, hey, this is something like I really enjoy. Like if you don't like it, like cool. Like, I'm still gonna do it. And like this
Mm-hmm.
is an important part of my life. So I think something you're passionate about and it's something that you wanna try to like for streamers, like new streamers, if that's something you want to do and try out, I think you should do that and give it a shot. I think just set reasonable goals like for yourself in case it like doesn't work out, like kind of a plan B or like, hey, like I'm gonna do this for a year and kind of reassess. So I think having good self-reflection skills is really important and find out whatever that may be. It doesn't have to be gaming or streaming. It could be just whatever kind of goals you have in life.
Mm-hmm. Something you can attain, something
Hmm.
small, not something like I'm gonna reach $1,000 by next week.
Yeah,
But I'm not
exactly.
affiliate. Oh well, there you go. You just already ruined your goal that you
Hmm.
already had.
Right, exactly.
What about for somebody who is getting into the field of psych pharmacy or psychiatry in general?
Yeah, I think really checking so I'm sure you've heard of countertransference, and for those
Oh
that
yeah.
don't know, countertransference is something essentially we bring our own beliefs and values to the table that we may have, um, and it could be positive or negative. So essentially, we may treat a patient different because of these beliefs. And the biggest thing about that is that we can have those beliefs or values, and that's okay. But the biggest thing is we can't let the patient know about that because that can lessen rapport, it could affect care, and that type of thing. So I think really for us is just kind of checking that bias at the door and just kind of really empathizing with the patient and like what they're going through. I've never had hallucinations. I've never been manic, but I understand that this is something that they go with on a regular basis, and I can't imagine what that's going through. So I can't like I need to check my judgments and biases at the door, because for the most part they may not even be aware of what's going on. Like that's their reality, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
they might think they're Jesus Christ or the president, but like that's what they believe, and that's what they feel like. So like while some people might find that funny or just ridiculous, but like that's their reality, right? And we need to manage them and treat them the same way that we would any other patient. So
Mm-hmm.
um I think that's the biggest thing, just helping promote mental health, and you can never go wrong with that, and just trying to reduce stigma. Really like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's really like the major battle. Um
Mm-hmm.
Surrounding mental health right now is people, like you said. I mean, it's hard to ask for mental health, but we don't want to. Like you said, it's very vulnerable, and
Mm-hmm.
you're putting yourself out there, right? When
Oh
when
yeah.
you when you ask for help, and it's not easy. But I think allowing to have a safe space, and being able to reach out to somebody that you can trust and support, I think is a really big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, stigma is just such a big thing. Like I said, I think we're headed in the right direction, but it's nowhere where it should be. And it was something that I saw a lot at the VA.
Mm-hmm.
Veterans, they obviously they want, you're meant to be this tough soldier,
Right.
that essentially doesn't have emotions, and it's hard for them to open up, and it's really cool to see when they do, and you kind of build that relationship with them and build rapport, and really see them get better. So again, I think empathy is a really big one.
Know your population. That's always
Mm.
what I
Yeah,
tell
know your population. Yeah, exactly.
interns is because I worked with Hispanic population. It was a nonprofit, one stop shop outpatient center. Had behavioral health, which is the sector I
Hmm.
worked with, and then they had, dentistry. They had podiatry. They had all this shit, but it was 60% Hispanic, and a lot of them didn't really believe in what behavioral health was and talk therapy, but they were very about medicine, and even them coming in for medicine was like, I, nah, there's
Sure.
no way. Like, we can figure this out on our own. We don't need to spend money or spend the time to do that. So knowing your population means really understand. Well, you can't really 100% understand, but listen to what they're going through, and as what Monster says, put yourself in their shoes, and kind of delegate from there. But yeah, it's really just a give and take, of information, and just being able to kind of guide that along, if you're really getting into this field. And again,
Hmm.
burnout, Monster has his ways of dealing with his shit during the day. I have mine. uh, Everybody's different when it comes to
Hmm.
self-care. That's also a freaking stigma, is throwing around self-care. Oh, we
Right.
could just practice self-care, we're fucking good. Oh, why don't you go just go do some self care outside? Go away from me. Practice your self care. Self care is just a general way. It's like saying we measure the way we process video games by screen time. It's the same
Mm.
concept, right?
Okay.
So, considering the same fact that we all have our individual basis of self care, we do things differently, and what works for Monster might not work for me, and vice versa. So, understand yourself before you get in this field, because I'll tell you what, there's not a lot of time till you help it out. Like,
Yeah, we don't make mental health and self-care a priority generally,
mm-hmm.
for the vast majority of the population. So, um, and it's okay to make yourself a priority. Like, don't feel bad or feel guilty about taking that time for yourself. It's well deserved, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. Respect yourself. I mean, give yourself the credit, because you're here. You're doing what you need to be doing. Take 30 minutes. Go take care of yourself. Or if you're feeling physically sick, that's probably a mind body thing, saying that
Hmm.
you're probably physically and mentally exhausted. So take the time for yourself, and then you'll get back to it. Fuck's sakes, dude. Um, my last question for you is, where can we find you, Monster? You said we can
Sure.
find you on Twitch. We can find you on Instagram.
Yeah, so my Instagram's kind of like, I guess, more of a personal account. Right now, I feel
Okay.
like my main thing is it's just my Twitch right now, and then I can link my Discord as well. Let me see if I can get a thing here.
Yes.
Create invite, copy. Okay, here's
There it
my
is.
Discord too. But I would
Oh
say for
yeah.
the most part, you can find me at monster2rs_TV. I will say it's kind of difficult for me to stream during the week, or if I do stream, it's really only for a couple of hours, but I do try when I can. But my main hours, I would say, are like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, I do have like a schedule there, but if anybody knows me, I am horrible at sticking to that schedule. So I will be on at some point on Saturdays. I would say usually around anywhere between like 10 and noon, and then for like 4 or 6 hours there. And kind of the same thing on Sunday. And then Fridays, I feel like are usually like later, like 8 or 9 to midnight or 1 o'clock. It just kind of depends. But those are kind of the main days to catch me. But feel free to join my Discord. There's a section in there for mental health, like asking questions to me about medications. And again, everything's for educational purposes only. But you can type your question there if you feel comfortable, or you can DM me and I will do my best to give you the best information that I am able to provide for you. So,
Mhm. Just like Dr. Mick, I'm gonna refer everybody for medication and pharmacology to you, Monster. You are the
sounds good.
dedicated pharmacist of Twitch. I also wanted to say we gotta play something sometime soon because I feel guilty that
Absolutely, man.
you know what I mean. Like you stopping by, I'm stopping by, but we're never doing something. And
Yeah, we'll have to do like some sort of collab or something. I've actually been
yeah,
wanting, I mean, I don't know if you're into like the Among Us thing, but I think an Among Us
yeah.
stream I feel like would be a lot of fun just getting some guys together and just doing some Among Us. It's always a good time. Murdering each other. So,
Shoot the shit, murder each other. I don't know the maps. I don't know the tasks,
oh yeah, I don't
bro.
know the new map at all.
I'm easy target. So go to me first.
So
But
it's a
yeah.
good time. But yeah, no, we'll have to hit you up on Battlefront or I'm actually looking, I don't know if you're an ARPG guy, but Diablo 2 Remastered's coming
Oh
out. I'm
yeah.
looking forward to Diablo 4. So those are going to be probably my time-consuming events whenever those come out.
You're never gonna have on Destiny again once Diablo 4
Maybe
comes out.
not, man. I put in some hours of D2 back in the day. So,
Back in okay, so maybe you might just like play it leading up to Diablo 4, but once Diablo 4 comes out,
well,
it's
once
like
Diablo 4 comes out, yeah, I would assume I'm probably going to switch unless it's like another Diablo 3 fiasco, and then we'll play it for a while and then go back to Destiny. So,
kind of like Dark Souls. You played it for everybody knows 1 and 2. It's
hmm
but then when you play Dark Souls 3, it's not as hard as Dark Souls 2, but you're still getting a shit ton out of it that you typically get. So
right.
I mean, it's the same concept. But anyways, I appreciate you. I know you probably want to game and relax for the night.
Yeah, I gotta cook some dinner.
It
So
cooks some. Damn, bro, it's fucking 9:10, bro.
I know it's late. Where you at?
I'm DC, man. East
DC?
Coast.
Okay, you're not that far.
Not that far,
So
but you're near farmland. I'm chilling. Well,
yeah.
Nebraska. You're in Seattle, right?
Well, I'm in Cleveland right
You're
now.
in Cleveland. Oh, well then you're
Yeah,
okay.
I'm north. Yeah, I'm probably like what 4, 5 hours from here.
A little bit longer than that.
Little. Oh, maybe that's from Pittsburgh. I think it was
Yeah.
4 hours from Pittsburgh.
To
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, it's like 3 hours, 4 hours from me.
Okay, yeah. So it's
Yeah.
probably 6.5 then.
And plus, you have to consider DC traffic, which is some shit. Yeah.
Sounds good, buddy.
Um, but yeah, man. We'll link up. I appreciate you. I'm gonna also put these videos on YouTube, so I will message you on Discord and also the post interview feedback form and all that crap. But you don't gotta
Oh,
worry
sure.
about
Sounds
that.
good.
You don't gotta worry about that. Go make your food. Enjoy yourself tonight. Was your wife?
Uh, girlfriend right now. We'll see.
Girlfriend, tell her I said hi. Thank you for
She didn't make a
letting me
slight
borrow
comment
you.
about it.
Oh, okay. Appreciate
No, man,
you.
I really appreciate you having me on. I think again, promoting mental health and kind of just helping reduce that stigma is just great. And so I just, again, thank you for having me on. Definitely would be down to do it in the future if you have any more time
I,
slots.
Absolutely. So I think the next time I want to have you on is more of a Q&A. We have people, just kind of like what Dr. Mick did, have like
Oh,
just one
sure.
questions and, just let it free fly and then we could just dude. No, no, no. We're gonna stick to our bonfire segment, but yeah, I definitely want to allow the panel to open up to you guys if you have any questions about mental health and pharmacology, just specifically in psychiatry and all that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Open up the board, have you on, and just shoot the shit, or we could do like a game night, you, Doctor Mick,
Hmm.
me, and just a couple other guys just having fun, doing whatever, man.
Absolutely, man.
It'd be
Like
fun.
I said, thank you for everything, man. I definitely appreciate what you do and what you do for the mental
Absolutely.
health community. So
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? You're the one in the inpatient, man. Holy fuck.
hey, everybody plays a role, man. It's not just me. So
Very wise words, sir. I appreciate you, man. Have a great rest of your night. Be
thank
safe.
you, everybody.
Wait, you're not streaming, right?
No, I'm gonna get off and
You're just
have
gonna get
dinner.
off?
I'll be on
Okay.
tomorrow. Yeah.
All right, that means I have to entertain. So I'll play some Battlefront. Let's get it,
Yeah, get some
baby.
Battlefront in there. Get some Baby Yoda action going
Hell
on.
yeah.
So.
You like that little Grogu boy?
All right, guys. Peace
All right.
out.
Peace out, monster.